Chapter 2. Homo Liberatus. A million years ago, there was an island called Lemuria in the Indian Ocean with a blessed climate and abundant generous nature, I began. Its inhabitants advanced much further along the evolutionary ladder than the rest of Earth's creatures. They learned to use the full potential of their brains and gradually lost fear at the genetic level. People without fear? Polina exclaimed. That's impossible. Didn't they have anything to be afraid of? Predators, for example. Dangers, of course, existed and still exist, but fear is merely an emotion, the survival response of a biological creature unable or unsure of its ability to deal with a threat. But when survival resources are more than sufficient, that reaction gradually disappears. Naturally, the Lemurians did not overcome fear immediately, but through a process of self-development. Oh sure. If someone attacks you, you can just teleport away, the girl guessed. That's just one example. Although first my ancestors learned to influence the behavior of other living beings, thereby eliminating the threat of being eaten. They hypnotized tigers. Polina laughed. Something like that, I smiled. Then why didn't other people on Earth learn to do the same? I think most ancient Homo sapiens lived difficult lives, while my ancestors achieved a higher level of development largely thanks to their isolation in a paradise called Lemuria. The islanders hadn't traveled farther than they could swim, until they mastered teleportation. Only having met the species who considered themselves the kings of nature, Lemurians realized how different they were from Homo sapiens and called themselves Homo Liberatus, that is, free humans. Free from fear. How did it happen that they didn't travel at all before teleportation? Polina exclaimed with a note of pity. Didn't they make boats on Lemuria? Why would they? I asked. Why? The girl was surprised. To fish in the sea, for example, or discover new lands. Now it was my turn to laugh. Why search for better when you already have the best? Isn't that what you say? My ancestors were happy on their island. And they weren't curious about what lay beyond the ocean. Of course they were, but you see, you're reasoning as a product of human civilization, I teased. Wanting to overcome difficulties at any cost, you immediately invent tools. You draw resources from the outside, rather than from within yourself. And that's a bad thing? Polina said, offended by my attempt to lower what humans prided themselves on most. Just look at what humanity has achieved with its inventions. What has it achieved? What do you mean? Airplanes, telephones, various electrical devices, harvesters. A lot of things. And all these inventions help us move through space, communicate over distances, even fly into space. And when you say us, who exactly do you mean? Yourself. Well, not me personally, she said, faltering. Humans in general. I extended my left palm. A barely noticeable seed was stuck to my finger. I dropped the seed to the ground and directed a beam of transparent white light onto the tiny object. Right before the girl's eyes, the seed turned into a small green bush with carved leaves within seconds, and within another minute it was covered in white flowers with yellow cores in the middle. Polina squealed with delight. Oh. Daisies. How did you do that? The way all Lemurians do, I replied, enjoying the effect. By controlling energy. What? Just like that? With your hand? I shrugged. Every adult Homo Liberatus can do this. My ancestors aspired to swim like fish, fly like birds, smell like animals, and understand everything said with words and without, making no tools and relying only on their nature. Eventually, they learned to control energy. The downside of your inventions is that they aren't a part of you. Devices, machines and tools must always be carried with you, meaning you must own them. And if the most necessary tool is lost, broken or taken by someone else, you return to a state of helplessness. You can't fly anywhere without a plane, or talk to someone at a distance without a phone, whereas we Well, you've seen it yourself, I gestured, avoiding demonstrating gravity-defying skills in front of people who were meditating with fishing rods on the other side of the lake. My companion stared at me, stunned by the obvious problem that kings of nature prefer to forget. The problem people don't teach their children to think about. On the other hand, Homo sapiens haven't changed or evolved over hundreds of thousands of years. Doesn't that seem strange to you? How have we not evolved? Humans came from apes, right? Isn't that a huge step forward? I can't be sure where humans came from, I admitted, meeting the girl's wild-eyed gaze. What do you mean? Any first grader knows that. Polina laughed. They say the ape picked up a stick and became human. The work created humans. She rattled off truths she had memorized but hardly comprehended. Something needed to be done. My goal was to show Polina a world beyond the Homo sapiens matrix. Symbolically, a stick is a tool that helps one expend less effort, I explained. You use it to knock fruits off a tree without climbing it, or to harness the energy of horses by driving them. So it turns out that humans evolved from apes by working less. Knowledge and skills are resources that are the hardest to take away. While Homo sapiens focused on inventing tools, essentially improving the stick, Homo liberatus focused on their inner abilities and developed an eighth chakra. Polina was struggling to squeeze everything I had said into her school-taught worldview. She wasn't having much success, and her brain was about to explode from cognitive dissonance. It turned out that humans were not the kings of nature, and fairy tales were just as real as the alien who had teleported right before her eyes and was now lying casually on the fresh grass. She needed time, so I remained silent. Finally, Polina spoke hesitantly. So let's start from the beginning. A monkey became human because it learned to make tools, right? Let's say so. I won't argue, I replied with a sympathetic smile. Then why do you say that Homo sapiens stopped evolving after inventing tools? Good question. The key word here is learned. At an early stage, using tools did improve the brain of ancient humans, but later it also slowed down their development. But how? There are only a few inventors among Homo sapiens. The rest think it's better to save mental energy than to spend it. They just take devices invented by someone else and use them. That's true, the girl giggled. The refrigerator, vacuum cleaner, and washing machine were her family's best friends. And it all comes down to the fact that most people no longer invent anything. You've entrusted your survival to devices created by the most talented among you. In other words, you've made yourselves dependent on various versions of that stick. And now it's the stick, not your species, that continues to evolve in what you call technological progress. As a result, tools are improving, but the vast majority of Homo sapiens are not. Quite the opposite. By using inventions, you strain your bodies less and become physically weaker. And your minds, after mastering 100 or so operations, get bogged down in routine and often even degrade. Yeah. Polina said. Any fool can press buttons, even a monkey. Button-operated machines are quite a logical phenomenon. The culture of Homo sapiens has revolved around helper tools since time immemorial. Even the heroes of your fairy tales need devices to perform magic, that is, to control energy, a magic wand, which is in essence the same ape stick, some kind of ring or various talismans and artifacts. Polina began recalling the fairy tales she had read as a child. Oh, you're right, she exclaimed and giggled again, adding, by the way, I always thought carrying around a magic wand was kind of inconvenient. It's so easy to lose it. Correct. I laughed. Using artifacts for magic in fairy tales is a projection of human weakness, while the prototypes of wizards from your stories, my fellow Homo Liberatus, don't need any tools at all. Wow, the girl said. That explains a lot. Marina Vantara. Mission Homo Liberatus, The Beginning.